So they started a small company to make handicrafts. So this company never started with the mindset of jewelry. So I think the main knowledge series, what you call it, evolve. I think this is the main part of the conversation here. The evolvement of this was never jewelry; it was actually handicrafts. And both of them started making handicrafts, started getting the handicrafts done locally, trying to supply them into Delhi to different craft museum stores. And they came across a question, not a question, but an opportunity to supply garnet. And that's when they came back to Jaipur and they started looking for garnets. And they were like, what is this thing called garnet, or a gemstone, or a colored stone called garnet? That's how they learned about it. While doing their research into gemstones and colored stones, they realized that the jewelry part of the business is a lot more personal, it's a lot more soulful, it has a lot more stories, and it is a lot more history rooted than what they could do in handicrafts. So I think evolving is I think what, in my first answer itself, what I've tried to share here is that you are always learning. You don't know what movie will impact you, like what, right? Or what situation will make you do what in the future, or learn what, and what is repercussions is going to be on you or on your life. And that is what repercussions for the, not just us, for the jewelry industry, was these two boys at that time going to watch a movie called Amrapali. So the brand is called Amrapali, which everyone knows in the world. So I think so that's how it all started. My dad was like, what better that you study 9 to 5 and then come to work after that. So that's what my schedule was. 9 to 5, I used to be at the GIA, and then walk down to Selfridges, and we used to have a store there, and I used to be at the store. And the most satisfying thing was that what I was learning at my course, and what I was learning about, say, a rose quartz or a crystal quartz, and learning about the families of quartz, which I had no idea of. And sometimes when I came back and told my dad, he did not have a lot of idea of how families of colored stone work. And you could say and tell all of this to a client, which you have learned in the morning, and you did a sale of 700 pounds or 500. And that was very exciting for me at that time. Definitely a very important milestone for me, for Amrapali, both because of Selfridges and because of learning for the next generation to be in the business through this procedure. We got an opportunity to design the Queen's crown during her Jubilee celebration. It was part of the display at Harrods. So I think that was something which was very well received across the world, very well taken.
Very happy to welcome you to the first episode of 2025. All of us are paying attention to the backdrops that we are all using, and you will observe the change of nomenclature from which we'll be using from this year. The theme is called Evolve. With that, I also welcome our guest for today, Mr. Tarang Arora. Tarangji is a GIA alumnus and represents Amrapali, which is a brand with formidable reputation. Something that started in 1978 by two friends, Rajesh Ji Ajmera and Rajiv Ji Arora, Tarangji's father, which started as basically with tourists in mind, and the foreign tourists, I'm saying, really classy tourists, and also the upper class buyers in mind, has today become an entirely different dimension. It's an icon of fashion, it's an icon of luxury, it is a icon of anything that you think is grace, jewelry, and everything. So, welcome, Tarangji. I'm so thankful to you for agreeing to meet us and kicking off 2025 on this note. So, with that,
having me here, it's a pleasure and it's an honor to be part of this and part of the GIA alumni. I'm, as you mentioned, I'm a ex GIA student.
sure.
So it's always a pleasure to come on such a platform and talk about anything which can be given back, and anything which is needed by the industry. Yeah.
Once again, welcome Tarang for agreeing to be a part of this, and welcome everyone who's joined us today live for what I presume will be a spectacular event of sorts, because there's a lot to unpack. And to help us unpack all these insights, I have a few questions prepared for Tarang. For those who are uninitiated to legacy of leadership, this will be in a question answer format, and of course, there's likely to be some sideshow. So we will be walking through some of the photographs that Tarang and his team have shared with us, detailing some of the milestones and some of the achievements that Tarang himself has had, and of course Amrapali. Tarang, my first question, and this will help us all understand. Of course, in the introduction, Apurva ji mentioned, Manisha touched upon it, but can you share the story of Amrapali, how it was incepted? Talk to us about how your father and your uncle sort of decided to start Amrapali, why the name Amrapali, and more interestingly, like over these years, how do you think it has evolved?
So again, once again, thank you for having me here. Shiv, to start with the first question, as mentioned, it was a brand or a company started in 1978. I think that time the idea was never even that it's going to become a brand or it's where it's going to go. So the plan was two students, both from history background, wanted to do something related to history. My grandparents, my chachas, my dad's background was everyone in our family was doctors or advocates. So very strict professional kind of setup. The vision for my dad also was for my grandfather was to become an because he was a brilliant student to not be an advocate, but then not even an engineer, but an IAS officer. So he always thought that my son, he should become an IAS officer. My dad had other plans. My uncle, who's my dad's business partner, who he was studying with at that time, best friends, he comes from Rajesh uncle comes from emerald background. His father was a very important emerald dealer in those days. So he fairly had some knowledge of emeralds. But both of them wanted to do something to do with history. So they started a small company to start to do make handicrafts. So this company never started with the mindset of jewelry. So I think the main knowledge series, what you call it, evolve. I think this is the main part of the conversation here. The evolvement of this was never jewelry; it was actually handicrafts. And both of them started making handicrafts, started getting the handicrafts done locally, trying to supply them into Delhi to different craft museum stores. And they came across a question, not a question, but an opportunity to supply garnet. And that's when they came back to Jaipur and they started looking for garnets. And they were like, what is this thing called garnet or a gemstone or a colored stone called garnet? That's how they learned about it. While doing their research into gemstones and colored stones, they realized that the jewelry part of the business is a lot more personal, it's a lot more soulful, it has a lot more stories, and it is a lot more history rooted than what they could do in handicrafts. Because people are wearing jewelry for years and generations. So that is what is they were always they admired and enchanted with. As to where the name came, they when wanted to start this business, they never knew what to call it. So my uncle still says that he and they went to watch this movie Amrapali and they fell in love with it, but they fell in love with the character of how she was a courtesan who used to take days to get ready before her performance, and how she was the first woman disciple of Lord Buddha. And this story was one of the most beautiful stories which touched him. And they then decided to call it Amrupali. So I think evolving is I think what in my first answer itself, what I've tried to share here is that you are always learning. You don't know where you will what movie will impact you like what, right? Or what situation will make you do what in the future or learn what and what is repercussions is going to be on you or on your life. And that is what repercussions for the not just us, for the jewelry industry, was these two boys at that time going to watch a movie called Amrapali. So the brand is called Amrapali, which everyone knows in the world. So I think so that's how it all started, and I think their whole idea always was to do one of a kind jewelry. The idea for them always was to do things which were hand done, which were inspired by tribal Indian jewelry. There would be things, I always give this example, which my father told me when I joined the business, that when they would acquire an old tribal necklace, he, instead of redoing it, he would actually take it apart and make 20 earrings. So if there are 40 pendants, he'd rather make 20 earrings and sell to 20 clients and have 20 ambassadors of the brand versus trying to sell it to one person. So that is something which he was doing at that time, and my dad is also a MBA from marketing. So he had that idea always, and that's what they grew the brand from.
Very interesting. From the fact that it originally started as a company, not a brand, that was one evolution. The fact that two gentlemen, probably in their 20s and 30s, decided to go and watch a movie named Amrapali, I think, and from that, and if we look back, that has certainly been an interesting journey. I want to share this one slide, and I want everyone to have a look. And of course, Tarang, you can share your commentary on it. These are some snapshots of photographs.
So the
Please tell us
gentleman
about them, Tarang.
on the left one, which you see three of them standing, is someone my dad is one of his oldest friends. And the gentleman there used to drive in a Volkswagen Caravan from Switzerland to India. And he has done 8 of these trips. And his journey was to travel from Switzerland to India, come to Jaipur, pick up silver jewelry from Jaipur, go to Goa, sit in flea markets in Goa, sell the jewelry, then travel all the way back to Switzerland and stop at flea markets wherever he could, eventually land up home in Switzerland, sell everything, and then drive back to India. He has done 8 such journeys. The picture which you see in the middle with me, my dad, and uncle is actually from his house 15 years back, 20 years, 15 years back, maybe, or maybe more 15, 20 years back, at the same house. It's quite funny that you have them next to each other. But but what I'm trying to say is that these guys were lovers of art. It did not stop. Nothing stopped them trying to find creativity, to find art, to travel across the world. And of course, if you see other examples also, I mean, we have had people like Calvin Klein. My dad and uncle at that time were doing Miss India's. We were the official jewelry partner for Miss India for maybe 6, 8 years at that time. This is before I got into the business.
Hmm.
The picture which you're seeing in the center with President Clinton became quite viral because this was the only picture during his travels when he is squatting down and watching something on the floor. So they created a little bazaar and they asked 10, 12 most important people in there and tried to create it in a very Indian manner. So that's why my dad is sitting on the floor trying to show him some jewelry and he's squatting down there. So I think that became very. It was in the front of Times of India or something. I still remember. And then we have Mr. David Yurman also there looking at jewelry at our booth. So we've had multiple such things, and I think sometimes going through these pictures, it kind of makes one proud that what they have also achieved, what we have in the next generation have to live up to, and how globally the product which we make is globally loved by people from across the world, from the likes of a flea market to David Yurman to Shimon Peres, the prime minister at that time, to Calvin Klein. So I think that is what this slide probably kind of encapsulates.
Yeah, beautiful. And of course, the one thing that sort of binds them together is the love for art, is the love for jewelry, and
Yeah.
I think that was something that Amrapali was able to provide. You look back at these pictures, Tarang, and I want you to maybe imagine a conversation that you're having with your father and uncle, and I want you to maybe think about some of the key milestones that you three could come up in a conversation about, that what have been those key milestones across the 50-year journey that Amrapali has seen, that has significantly shaped the growth and the evolution of the brand.
So, I have seen this growth story in front of my eyes, though I was a kid at that time, but I've seen how things have changed, how excited we used to be, or we would have been. I still remember our first store other than Jaipur was started in Oberoi Shopping Arcade in Nariman Point in Bombay. We still have that store, and we still, do business out of it. But I still remember how significant it was for us at that time, and how much time my dad and uncle used to try and live between Bombay and Jaipur. Our summer holidays used to be in Bombay just because there was work in Bombay, and we used to be. So I'm just so just the at that time a key milestone while growing up. I think that was definitely that you had more than one store, you had more than one boutique, you had more than one place to retail. And Bombay was New York for in those days, especially for someone from Jaipur, right? So I think that was definitely a very big milestone. And then, of course, we have expanded a lot. But I think that first store meant the most. And then we've had multiple things. And going back, at least when I got into the business, I got into the business in 2002. And that's where I did GIA, was in London. I was supposed to be a student for Carlsbad, but I had to shift it to London just because of the fact we were getting into Selfridges. And my dad was like, what better that you study 9 to 5 and then come to work after that. So that's what my schedule was. 9 to 5, I used to be at the GIA and then walk down to Selfridges, and we used to have a store there. And I used to be at the store. And the most satisfying thing was that what I was learning at my course, and what I was learning about, say, a rose quartz or a crystal quartz, and learning about the families of quartz, which I had no idea of. And sometimes when I came back and told my dad, he did not have a lot of idea of how families of colored stone work. And you could say and tell all of this to a client, which you have learned in the morning, and you did a sale of 700 pounds or 500. And that was very exciting for me at that time. Definitely a very important milestone for me, for Amrapali, both because of Selfridges and because of learning for the next generation to be in the business through this procedure. Of course, we were then in Harrods. We got an opportunity to design the Queen's crown during her Jubilee celebration. It was part of the display at Harrods. So I think that was something which was very well received across the world, very well taken. During this time, we were one of the few jewelry brands which were also having a PR office in LA. So we had a showroom in LA, not some showroom to sell, but actually for sourcing of clients to pick jewelry for their shows and for their awards. This I'm saying 22 years back. In those days, Shiv, no, people did not know what stylist. I did not know what stylist was, and what does actually and what does do they actually do, and what sourcing means. And the shocking part was that wow, such a big celebrity would be borrowing jewelry from us and then wearing and then returning. And so we did. You just did not know all these things, and we were one of the first ones doing it at that point. So I think that was something which was a milestone, which changed everything, which changed the brand's perspective world over. Of course, in the local market in America, but also in India. And I think we, as in India, are very proud and of the fact that, oh, this brand is an Indian brand, not just successful in India but successful abroad. And that gives a lot of weightage to the whole story, which we knowingly, unknowingly were also kind of gathering. I think another milestone would be for my dad and uncle to be invited to the Buckingham Palace during the India UK year of cultural year. And I still remember very, very vividly sitting on the lunch table, me, my wife Akanksha, my dad, my mom, we were chatting. And on Facebook, Akanksha had seen that our friend Manish Arora, who we had done a collaboration with, was invited to Buckingham Palace to meet the Queen because of this cultural event. And Akanksha was telling me this and telling my dad this. My dad goes, "Oh, I think I got an email as well." I'm like, "What do you mean you think you got an email?" He's like, "Yeah, I thought I got an email, but I thought it was a spam." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So he on the lunch table took his phone, we checked the email. He actually received an email. He never RSVP'd thinking that it was a spam. And that's when I got in touch with my PR in UK and I said, listen, we've received this email and he's got an invite. This is legitimate, right? So they're like, yeah, of course. So we registered for it, RSVP'd it, and it was like in 6 days or something. So we had this conversation because of Manish. So I think that was quite a fun event in from us, but for them, I think it was because they were the only jewelers invited for this meeting. And I think most important milestone in Amrapali's history, according to me, yet is the Amrapali Museum. I think the existence of Amrapali, what it is today, is because of the museum, knowingly or unknowingly. Because because these two students who started the brand with 392 rupees in their pocket, to be precise, they had this love for culture, they had this love for art, and at the same time, they were buying these pieces, but they were not letting go of a lot of them, which they fell in love with until they found a replacement, a better one. So they were doing this process at that point without knowing what's going to happen. And after a certain point, they were like, listen, maybe someday we should start a museum because when we got into jewelry, there's no place where they could go and learn about Indian tribal jewelry. So just the idea of keep buying and selling whatever they have a reputation of and keeping one of a kind pieces became this passion which we have the Amrapali Museum. We have 4,000 pieces in the collection. 800 are on display, 2,300 are in the drawers in the museum. We are expanding the museum as well at the moment. So, yeah, I think that has been the most recent and biggest milestone for the brand.
Wow. I'm just trying to piece this all together, Tarang. And the fact that your father and uncle almost missed out on meeting the Queen. From that to the creation of this museum, which has 4,000 pieces, and the fact that your father and Ajmeraji, but just these passionate people about history, about artifacts, about handicraft, about tribal arts, and the fact that they've been cataloging and curating all of these is just fabulous. I would love, in fact, if you could probably extend an invite to many of our alumni here to maybe come to the
100%.
museum.
100%.
I'm sorry, I'm probably
That's the
twisting your
purpose.
arm into this, but
No, no,
I thought this would be a great moment.
that's the purpose of this museum. That is absolutely the purpose where people from the background of jewelry or design can just come and you can spend 3 hours in the museum or you can spend 3 days in the museum. Both are less, depending on how much time you have. So there's so many things to learn from. I had a friend yesterday I was showing to, and he is the head of Tommy Hilfiger India and CEO, and we were talking about it, and he's like, listen, your designers need to go nowhere. I mean, there is, and he's telling me, he's like, this one piece you can make collections out of it, multiple. So I think that is what Indian designing has always been. Also, we have always been maximal. We have never been minimals, right? So in one piece, there's so many different textures, so many different animals, art forms that you can design so much from it. And this museum definitely offers that.
Fabulous. We would love to have a visit at the museum and maybe take a few days off to have a look at all the pieces there. Tarak, I'll just take a moment and again share some of the photographs. And I think the one that you're
This is the Oberoi store. It's renovated now.
Oberoi store, right? Where you would frequently come to Mumbai.
Sorry?
When you would frequently come to Mumbai.
Yes, yes, yes.
Fabulous.
So this is the Oberoi store. These are some images from London when we started. That's a collection called Dark Maharaja on the left-hand side, which I absolutely loved.
Beautiful. Tell us a little bit about this, Taran.
So this is, I mean, we as your series are again about evolving, I designed this collection a while back, called it Dark Maharaja. The idea for me always was that these ruby triangles look like sword to me, and that's why I done this at that time. Try to keep it price point, so it's a silver and gold combination. The black is silver, yellow is gold, and we did this collection. We had very good response from everywhere, but it did not take off. And it took about 2 years for it to actually become very popular. So, something which is a very important learning, which I got actually after this specific collection, because it was very edgy and it was not a regular thing which you would see, is that sometimes the client doesn't even know what it appreciates, what they appreciate, what they like. They see something unusual, they love it, or they are completely scared about it. That you listen, this is something I don't wear this. This is not something which we have always worn. So I think it sometimes it takes time. You have to when you do things like that, you have to inform the clients, you have to teach them, you have to educate them, and that process might take longer. But eventually, when it happens, it gives outstanding results. This ear cuff is, for example, it ended up being on the cover of a magazine where Rihanna was wearing it. So yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorite collections. These are
This
some
is
images from
right?
our Harrods boutique.
I love how the visual merchandising just stands out, and I love this display of gemstones. I mean,
This is called a gem bar. And
uh-huh,
we are starting a new store, new boutique in Bombay in the next month and a half, 2 months. Our Juhu store boutique is getting relocated, and we have a new location which is coming up on Juhu Tara Road and SB on the corner. And I've gotten my gem bar there now. So we'll have a gem bar there. It's basically what we did in those days was you would come up to the gem bar, and all these gemstones are there, and you would choose one, and you would tell us if you want a ring or you want a bracelet or you want a pendant, and you will tell your preference of metal. You will tell us your preference of diamond, rose cut diamond, full cut diamond, pole key diamond, old cut diamonds, combinations, and our design team will design a piece or two examples for you, and then we will take it from there basically. So this is something which became very popular. It was a visual treat because it was something which used to move regularly and would attract. So if you enter the room, the fine jewelry room, you will see this moving thing from far away, and every client would think, "What is that?" So it would attract a lot of footfall as well.
interesting. For people who absolutely love gemstones and maybe drinks, this is the perfect place to be, right? I mean, a cocktail of probably gemstones and everything, right? I mean, you could probably create something very beautiful with just the gemstones and the combination of that. Just an amazing concept. I think this is what you were
That's
talking
the
about.
one, exactly.
This
That's
is
the picture. Yes,
awesome,
yes,
fabulous. And of course, one of the milestones that you spoke about,
yeah. So this is when they were invited to Buckingham Palace, which was quite outstanding.
beautiful. Right. Tarak, what next I want to ask you is, we spoke about how it started off as a business, as a company, and over the period of years, it sort of became a brand. To you, what I want to understand from you is, what does a brand mean to you, right? And how does innovation as a strategy play into your brand's identity and the growth?
So what brand means to me is something as simple as what brings out what emotion. A brand could bring out an emotion of for a brand, a clothing brand or a shoe brand for me can bring out an emotion of luxury, and for my dad would bring out an emotion of waste of money. He'll be like, "What you're wearing is absolute." So that's the job what a same brand can do to different people. The strategy is that how do you communicate and convince the non-convinced in the brand story, in the brand strategy. So I think that is what the whole idea of brand means to me. And again, this could be for luxury or for mixed segment or non-luxury as well. And that's what we have also done with Tribe as a brand, and we've launched Tribe as well. So I think for us, when we do any kind of market research, that is something which is very important for us. So even living in London, when I was telling you, and studying in GIA and doing that, how I used to learn about what's going on is with noticing market research, what handbags are being sold, what shoes are being sold, what outfits are being sold. Because at the end of the day, what we are selling is an accessory. It is an expensive accessory. It can be for $500 and it could be for $50,000. It could be for $200,000. But at the end of the day, it's an accessory. It needs to be worn with the right outfit. It needs to be worn with the right shoe. And that's the mindset of a lady. So that is what how I used to do my research, because there was no internet as such. Internet, there was emails and all of that, but there was no as such internet to do so much research. Today we get all of that in WGSNs and all of that. But I think that is something which we did do a lot of time to. We are blessed in a way as well, because we have a very important arm of the business where we are exporters as well, and we export a lot of fashion jewelry out of the country, and that kind of gives us an edge as to what are the new trends which are coming, what are the new colors which are being coming in, what are the new, will it be bigger hoops, or which is going to be smaller hoops, or it's going to be a combination of silver and gold. Even in silver jewelry, will be gold plated in silver. So I think all of these researches, textures, this kind of really helps us innovate. And of course, going to relevant jewelry shows, going to understanding the latest machinery, understanding how we can make our karigars' lives easy and better. Though we still want them to be involved in the business, because at the end of the day, what we are selling is handcrafted jewelry. And that is the USP of Amrapali, that it is a traditionally derived, handcrafted jewelry. Be it when we are making it in fashion jewelry, be it a $5 piece or be it a $500,000 piece, it has to be handcrafted. So doing that right combination where we do not lose, we don't want to buy machinery where we are losing the hand craftsmanship, right? So I think this is what we are regularly going towards, regularly trying to find, innovate, and give that to our brand.
So essentially, the innovation stems through the market research, and that is what helps you keep agile, keep you ahead of the trends. And of course, there is innovation at the Karigar level because everything is ultimately handcrafted.
100%.
Right.
So, just to give you an example here as well, I did my I've done bench work for 6 months, and I was again living in London in those days. But I came back to Bombay, and I did my bench work in Bombay. And the main reason was, and my dad was like, go to Florence and do it there. Go to Italy, it'll be really good. You learn new things. I said, but at the end of the day, I'm working with the Indian craftsmen. I have to speak in Hindi. I have to work with them. I have to understand their language. I have to understand whatever slangs they're using on the bench. It doesn't matter. So I think for me as well, the idea always was to be in that position always. And this is what I have kind of implemented, that be in that position maybe for a short period of time to understand what challenges that segment faces and how you can improve their performance, basically.
Fabulous. Uh, I want to build on something that you mentioned in terms of innovation, and also referring to something that you mentioned earlier, Tarang, is how you had a sort of an office in LA.
Yeah.
Many years ago, from the point of sourcing and stylists and all of that, when this was probably not something that was done so much regularly. How do you believe uh, collaborations and partnerships have been helpful for your brand? And And if you could offer one piece of advice in today's world, how could a brand go about building those sort of collaborations and partnerships, keeping in mind the brand ethos?
I think collaborations are one of the best and the most amazing thing which can happen to a brand if done correctly with the right partner. See what, so I'm going to take you to a collaboration which we did with Manish Arora. And we, what we realized after that collaboration, even the first drop which we did, was that we in the jewelry world are so within our box. We are not thinking out of the box, and that is so true even when it comes to jewelry making. So when we were doing this, we Manish saw enameling on back of gold jewelry, and he said, "Let's do it on silver." I said, "Listen, silver doesn't have enamel. I mean, silver doesn't. You can't do enamel on silver, and it's a complicated process. It's not that easy." He's like, "No, I'm sure there is a way. There is something." I said, "I don't." So we went back and forth, and we never thought that we will be able to do it. He insisted that no, no, we'll find a way out of it. We pressurized because it was out of our comfort zone, and we had to prove our capacity and capability to our partner when we were doing this collaboration. We made sure that we did it. If you go back 11, 12 years when we did this collaboration, there was no enamel being done on silver as modern jewelry. Enamel on silver has exploded in the last 7, 8, 9 years. 13 years back, there was no one doing it, literally. And we were not confident that we will be able to do it. We, now, when it comes to innovation while doing collaborations as well, my team started building, my guy from Jadao Jewelry doing enamel started building ovens which would rotate regularly every all the pieces so the enamel doesn't drop in silver, right? Because he had to bake so many silver pieces that it doesn't work like Jadao jewelry or gold jewelry that you put it in that little bhatti which they use. He had to get these ovens made. So he invented that oven. We literally bought oven from the market, and we took out the grill and we put these bars and put a motor on the side of it, and we made it. So what I'm trying to say, we were innovating while doing this collaboration because we had to do something new and something different. And when you go through and you look at those pieces, I mean, it was incredible what reaction we got, what reaction we got within the organization, what reaction we got from the karigars from seeing the design and seeing कि साहब ये कैसे होएगा, ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता, and then figuring out कि कैसे हो सकता है, and to make it happen. And once it happened, I made sure that we had all the craftsmen together. We showed them the video on the Paris Fashion Week model walk on a large screen, and we did a samosa and chai party for them. So they were very happy that what we have created, what we have worked, we have done overtime maybe at times, and that has given a good result. So I think collaborations, what it does is it pushes your limit. It forces you to evolve and innovate. And also it brings your organization together because you are suddenly working on a project which is outside your comfort zone. So you have to meet a lot more. You have to do a lot more research within, be it your designers, be it your craftsmen, and you start recognizing and realizing who is worth what and whose capacity and capability is worth what. So this, I think, we found in our collaboration with Manish, and after that we have done something with Anamika Khanna also, which was fine jewelry collaboration, and we had diamonds and we had emeralds and enamel and all of that in the fine jewelry space. Then we did a collaboration with Masaba in our tribe range, which was fashion jewelry, which was completely the other end, completely opposite. It was Ghana Ghana was the name of the collaboration. It was very tribal looking versus what we did with Anamika, which was fine, versus what we did with Manish, which was very psychedelic and colorful. So I think if you see these three collaborations which I talk about, they're very different. And there is a new one coming out very, very soon as we speak. It will be, you will hear about it in maybe in the next 2, 3 days. So again, a new collaboration which is going to be announced, and it's going to be in fine jewelry. And yeah, I think it just keeps pushing us and getting us to do something new.
I think
Yeah.
if you look at the three,
So the
uh,
left one is Masaba. You can see the tribal motives and the look we have done that. So that's made in brass. That's not even silver. Uh, the kind of craftsmanship, the work which goes to make that kind of look in brass, it's a lot, and to give that finish. The one in the center is Manish Arora, and you can see these are massive gazelle earrings. They were huge. And then the other one was the last one was Anamika Khanna,
beautiful.
pearls and rose cuts and white gold.
Beautiful. So the fact that not only were these collaborations uh, helpful for the brand in terms of growth and exposure and all of that, but the fact that they were able to push the envelope, push the boundaries of innovation. Uh,
Yeah.
you mentioned how you had to sort of reinvent how enameling was done on silver. I think that is uh, probably one of the biggest examples of how fruitful collaborations can really push the boundaries of newer things.
I mean, we took the collaboration. We went to Paris Fashion Week and we did a show there. Now that just the fact that we did that and to go there to expose ourselves to that market, to expose ourselves to those people, I think that itself is a outstanding, and being with the who's and who's of the design world in those fashion weeks.
Absolutely. Now, talk to you specifically about design. I loved how you mentioned that the fact that your father could look at these massive pieces and maybe take create 20 pieces out of them in order to reach more customers. So that also speaks a lot about the sort of design language and the fact that the inspirations that you look forward to. So how do you now once so there is one part which is the which is guiding you and everything at Amrapali in terms of what you want to create. But
Yeah.
how do you convey that to your consumers? How do you tell a story around that piece that resonates with the customer? That is something that I want to understand from you.
I think for us, eventually creating ambassadors of the jewelry of the brand is the most important. So if you see, um, if you compare out of both the brands, we have completely two different strategies when it comes to Amrapali and when it comes to Tribe. In Amrapali, you will never see us giving an ad. You'll never see us marketing ourselves as such in a mainstream marketing system. It has always been word of mouth. It's always been very personalized. It's always been that our locations, our salespeople who are working, our managers or our heads at our boutiques are the people who are the ambassador of the brand, and then you're creating an ambassador of the brand when you're selling a product to them and educating them about this. So I think the most important part is to have the right kind of communication within the system. Communication outside into the world is of course very important, but within the system is the most important. I think sometimes what we fail within the jewelry world, I feel, is that the community you've spent lots of amount of money in marketing a product, but the system inside doesn't know very well, the salesperson itself doesn't know very well, or the sales lead doesn't know. So those are very critical because I don't see a client in Bombay, I don't meet a client in Delhi, and I don't meet a client in Bangalore. For them it is my person who they meet, so to educate them with the right knowledge is extremely important. Now when you come to Tribe, on the other hand, it's completely price point, very design language focus. The idea is that we are selling value addition, we are selling the design language, and that is what we are trying to emphasize at Tribe. So our photo shoots are there, our marketing strategy is such on Tribe as well. So I think just to balance that well, is what we have always done. In Amrapali, this other strategy which we have always used is to make sure that majority of the pieces are one of a kind. it is very, very important in the main brand for someone not to walk into a party where someone else is wearing the same thing. Someone who spent maybe 20 lakhs with you is somewhere where someone else who, I mean, a person who can spend that kind of money is already in that circle and is moving with that kind of, someone else is wearing the same piece. That is something which is not acceptable to us. So we have differentiated that, and we have differentiated that emotion versus the tribe, which is a completely different emotion where we want accessibility. We want people to be able to shop online, shop at the airport, shop at a mall, shop at a store in store. Accessibility is everything. And in Amrapali, low accessibility is everything.
Fabulous. We'll just look at a few pictures. Uh, and what I'm able to see, Tarang, over here is the fact that one, these are unique pieces,
Yeah.
which is what you referenced, and the fact that there is investment in terms of the design language. They have a certain appeal to it, and this is something that is the story about all these pieces is something that is sold internally first, right?
So I'll tell you something now. Just looking at this picture on the left corner, you see there is a choker being designed with emeralds, right? This is actually a serpage which converts into a choker as well, right? And this is I made this maybe 6 7 years back, 8 years back, full of rose cut diamonds and full cut diamonds, Colombian emeralds, beautiful piece, one of my favorite pieces. And it I there was a client who was shopping for their wedding in the family. Um, and I showed them that this can be worn as a serpage and you can take it off and worn as a choker. So at least you have two usability, and that is what I believe in a lot. I get very excited when I can provide something which has multiple usability. The second piece also has that, by the way, it's a necklace and a headpiece. Anyways, so I was doing this choker, and the gentleman goes to me. He said, "No, no." He confirmed the piece. Then he says, "You put the serpage on and you solder it. I don't want it to become a choker ever again." I'm like, "Listen, that's a massive choke headpiece. You're having a wedding and it'll be done." He's like, "I have two kids. I have three brothers. Everyone has two kids. I have at least 8 9 weddings to go through. My son is the oldest one. Everyone in the family now is going to wear that headpiece and will wear it for everyone's wedding." So what I was very happy with is that there's a client out there who feels that way, and something which I have created is going to become a true heirloom, which is going to be worn by the whole family. They're going to be photographed. They're going to be in their bedrooms or in their living rooms or in their drawing rooms with those photographs on their Instagrams. And it's going to be all with the same headpiece. And they've created that legacy from a piece from Amrapali. So that is something which is extremely satisfying when you have clients like that, and you do things like that.
Thank you. That's a beautiful customer story. And the fact that from your point of view, you were looking at the multifunctionality of the piece, and the customer was really convinced that, listen, I know what I want to do with this, and
Yeah.
this is what I want. Fabulous. Doug, I want to talk to you about some of the challenges. Now, as you grow, as the brand grows over these years, there are numerous challenges that you face, whether they are talent related, whether they are design related, whether they are technology and innovation related, or sometimes,
Jaipur related.
sorry.
Jaipur related. People somehow don't want to come or did not want to stay in Jaipur. So if you have local talent, they always want to go to Bombay and Delhi's and Bangalore's and Hyderabad. They want to go to bigger cities. Sorry, I interrupted you there, but yeah, go on.
That's actually an interesting point in terms of the talent availability,
Yeah.
right? So, how do you look at these challenges, Tarang, and how have you overcome them? How has Amrapali as a brand overcome them, and you still continue to deliver the growth that you deliver?
So sometimes I mean, this is something which I'm going to just repeat because I saw it yesterday or today morning on my WhatsApp, someone had sent me this. The head of NVIDIA is talking about this, and he's saying that people ask me what is the future plan of the business, what is the growth plan of the business, and I say there's no future plan. The plan is today. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen next. We make sure that what we are doing today is 100%. And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about all our roles, my role, my dad's role, my uncle's role, my wife's role in the business. And I think that is what everyone's really always been doing. They never did. There was no business plan that in 40 years Amrapali will have so many stores, this many employees, this many businesses. So I think what you are doing today, you need to do it better. I think at the end of the day, you can emphasize on what you have done today and how you could have done that better, and maybe implement it for tomorrow when you go back to your office. So I think that is something so true when I heard about it, and then I started thinking about it. It actually happens in our lives a lot. So I think challenges which you come through, we've all gone through challenges like COVID, for example, right? And I think in a challenge such as COVID, what worked for something for us for an Amrapali was that the retail outlets were shut completely. There was no clients. There was nothing. There was limited access to clients. It was only through WhatsApps. There was limited weddings. There was limited shopping happening. But our online presence was, or having tribe online was a very important, significant part that made things still going. There was a reason why we were able to give business to our manufacturing unit. There was a reason why we could still have our artisans coming into work and still earn and go back during COVID times and have their families being living, right. So I think having a having a parallel, not a game plan B, or not, but being flexible as to being able to remold yourself is something which is extremely important. Always having something which is parallelly involved in your business, that if this doesn't work, something else work, is something which I've really learned through COVID. I've learned this through over the years, working with multiple metals we work with. When I joined the business, I was always of the mindset that what we are doing in fine jewelry versus why are we doing silver. Then comes the point that when came COVID, or when comes destination weddings, or when comes something else, people want to wear silver. Today, what's happening is that the silver part of the business, or silver jewelry, or silver looking jadau is so well made, is so beautifully done, that someone like me, even in a wedding or in a party with dim lights, cannot say if it's real jewelry or if it's silver jewelry. So that part is also growing. So what I'm trying to say is always have a parallel system in place within your business. Has what I have learned worked very well. And whenever you face challenges, you always have the parallel one to learn from, or shuffle from. So I think these are the things which we have always kind of used and seen.
Very interesting. I also refer to one of our conversations during IIJ signature when one of our jeweler friends from Delhi also spoke about this in terms of how silver is becoming the new gold. One is, of course, from an investment point of view, and the fact that designs can be easily made into silver, and no one will be able to make out the difference. Uh, that's an interesting point, and of course, the fact that you could have a plan B, and you could shuffle, you could take the learnings from one and apply it to the other, and that's also sort of helps you through your challenging phases. Uh, Tarang, I now want to ask you a little bit about Tribe and the fact that you have this other brand, that the plan B sort of a thing. And how have you adapted? How has Amrapali adapted to this digital age where marketing spends are minimal, reach is maximum, you can get millions of impressions with simple social media posts, and And clearly, you're looking to target younger customers, the younger customer base. This is not the customer base that wants to buy wedding jewelry online. So, what went into creating this brand, or a sub brand? I'm not sure how you would categorize it, but what went into creating Tribe? What's an ideal customer base for you? How do you go about reaching them, and how does this plan B look forward? Look going forward.
So, Tribe was actually started by my wife Akanksha. Um, Basically because she was in those days looking after the marketing of the part of Amrapali. So she would be talking to all the PR agencies and she'll be planning what needs to be done and so on. And she thought that there's everyone's making Facebook pages, so we should have a Facebook page. So we made a Facebook page, and she um, of course, it was an Amrapali page. And then we started realizing that the amount of people who keep emailing us and asking us that where can they shop, they were majorly from out of the country. And they did not have any access to this jewelry. And they were very desperate that, listen, I need to buy this. I have a function, I have a family event, and I want to wear this. How do I get it? That's when she said that, what do you think about starting a online brand? And my father always used to always had an example that our clients are like our tribe. They are our tribe of Amrapali. So that's what she caught on and called it Tribe Amrapali. So it started with that. And it started with literally carving out maybe 100, pieces, literally out of our silver collection, put it online. And she started this. I was very against it. I never thought it's going to work. I thought, who's gonna buy jewelry online? No one buy. I mean, it's an Indian client. It's so difficult to convince them to buy anything online. They have to touch and feel, and jewelry needs to do that. No one's gonna. My dad and uncle were very, very strongly for it, and they were like, "Listen, this is gonna do very well." I thought it's not, but I'm happy to say I was wrong. Um, so that's how it started. And yeah, so we've now Tribe is a parallel separate brand completely. The idea with Tribe is that it is more entry level, it is more price point, it is something which is more aspirational. What happens is that when you know the brand, you know what we were talking about in the starting, the brand. What does a brand mean to you? So someone walking on the street looks at a store, looks like a fancy store, thinks that, yeah, if I'm gonna walk into this store, maybe I'll be able to afford something or not, or will they have what I want? And that reluctance half the time dissuades the client, and the client walks away. And that is precisely what we did not want to do with Tribe. And we knew this very well, that when you create a brand which is creating to the top level, and it's catering to that level, then you're losing out a lot of business also. So the idea is how to not lose that business, and how to invite that clientele as well within your umbrella without making them feel that, maybe will I be able to get it or not. So that's when Tribe came in existence even more so. It became a company of its own, a brand of its own. It's of course used Amrapali as under the umbrella of Amrapali. It's made in our workshops. The design language is as different as we can do. The whole idea with Tribe is that everything is reproducible. Everything is can be made more. It is for everyone to access. It's for everyone to buy, which is completely the opposite, which I was telling you in Amrapali. And I think it was difficult and yet easy. Easy because these are the don'ts for Amrapali. If these are the don'ts for Amrapali, these are the do's for Tribe. Now to continuously shuffle between them is the problem. Is where you need to adjust your mindset very often, and that still sometimes you end up under not and there's a thin line where there's a blurry line where you feel that, am I doing the right thing doing this, or right thing doing that. Online digital marketing has been one of the most key points for Tribe. Our retail presence or our significantly growing retail presence on airports at the moment has been something which we are very proud of and something which we are um, still growing. If I'm not mistaken, about a week back or 8 days back, we have just opened in Chennai airport. We have opened in Lucknow. We are looking to open in Srinagar in the next week, 10 days at the airport. So we are looking at the airport. We have our segment which we have identified. We want high footfall areas, small stores. It's a very clear business planned system which we don't have for Amrapali, very honestly. In Amrapali, the business plan is the product needs to be outstanding. The product needs to be one of a kind. We need to put a lot of effort in the product and it will find its client. In Tribe, it's completely the opposite, right? So I think that is what has worked for us, and that's what we always emphasizing on.
That's beautiful. How it's very easy, I would say, Tarang, for you to mention that there seems to be no plan for Amrapali in that sense, like a business plan, but it's very beautifully put in the way that the focus there with Amrapali is on the product, and each product will product is unique, and each unique product will find its way to its customer. Whereas with Tribe, it's primarily catering to a wide sort of audience, which ultimately would probably aspire for an Amrapali unique piece. These are some, I think, interstitials from social media for Tribe Amrapali, and I think the focus here. Sorry, please go on.
I was just saying that if you see in this, even you, the first image is of a contemporary image. So what we are also doing in Tribe is not just keeping it very bridal. I think the images which you have landed up may be a little more bridal than usual, but there is contemporary, there's traditional, there's tribal, there's bridal, there is home. We are now introduced some handbags in Tribe as well. We are expanding, evolving, I would like to say here. Our design language, not just from jewelry, but to home products, to selling frames, photo frames. We are selling handbags now. We are selling, god goddesses for during Diwali. We are selling coins during Diwali. We are selling rakhis, of course. So the product range is expanding. We are open to design anything and everything which is going to enhance the client's home, themselves, their surroundings, and that is what we are busy doing in Tribe.
Interesting. Tarak, I want to do something different from what we've done till now. Uh, I want to talk to you about trends that you foresee, especially with the brand and legacy that Amrapali has and the creative force that you are. Uh, there are some pieces that help us understand the creative direction that you want to take for Amrapali. I'll just put them up on screen, and then you can talk to us about the trends that you really foresee for the jewelry industry in particular.
So I think I think what is now happening is that this word trends, first of all, is is losing its meaning. I feel. I'll tell you why. Because there's so many different demographies. There's so many different um, segments of clients out there. It is not as simple as it used to be before. Everyone used to do what the trend was going. So I mean, at the moment, my team was talking to me, and we put this together, and was because of the Kalamboka, which is the trend for 2025. I foresee that that's going to be very important. I've already seen that, and I'm sure other participants on this presentation who are in the business of colored stones know that how tourmaline has become very expensive, very important in the last year or so. We have seen that with tanzanites. So, according to me, colored stone is definitely the trend. That does not mean that diamonds are not going to sell, but we have a whole different mammoth of a problem when it comes to diamonds, because of which I think colored stone is going to be in big focus. But what I significantly feel is that it's finally time for other than the big three to actually shine. There's time for tourmalines to do well. There's time for spinels to do well. There's time for aquamarines to do well, tanzanites to do well, Paraiba tourmalines. I mean, you will not believe the amount of queries we are getting for Paraiba tourmalines. And of course, I know that there was someone was wearing it at the Ambani wedding. That has enhanced it, but it was already there before. So this has been going on from last 4 5 years. 5 years, I would say, in the Indian market, but it has enhanced significantly since the wedding. But the acceptance of colored stone, other than the big three, is building up, which is amazing. And I feel that that is going to be a very important trend. Anything which is going to be color, anything which is going to be investment worthy, other than diamonds, is going to be the trend. It's You have to realize that we are still wired with that idea of investment, right? So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're buying an expensive piece of jewelry. Tell me if it's gonna and the only way you can um, tell the client or inform the client is from the data from the past. That in the last 10 years, spinels have gone so much, emeralds have gone so much, and we have seen this with colored stones, and it's only bound to increase. So I think for me, colored stones is the trend.
Yeah, and not just the big three, of course.
Not just the big three, and within the big three also, which I have actually started noticing from, and these are just, this is what I'm telling you is from the kind of wants and questions and things which we receive from all our boutiques, is that people are looking to buy blue sapphires. And this problem in the last 6 months, 1 year, the amount of people looking to buy blue sapphires have gone up significantly in India, I feel. The younger generation is coming in. They are not hung upon it with the mindset that it needs to be something which an astrologer has told me. It needs to be something which a parent would suggest, ki pehno mat pehno. Half the time, kids are not even with their parents. They're now moving to different cities. Our societies have changed so much. So I think that is, all of that impacts. And in India, the beauty is that we have large number of everything. We have large number of the old society as well. We have a large number of people who are still buying jewelry as a commodity and not as a jewelry. There's a large community who's buying as value addition. So there's so much in our country which is exploding with this desire to buy jewelry, to buy something which they like, be it clothing, be it cars. So I think that's where I feel that the word trends does not work very well in India, because there's so much, anything can work in India. Depends if you package it and you have the right story to sell it.
Uh, Tarang, I want to ask you a few final questions, but before that, I want to understand from you, as again the creative force behind Amrapali, what would be a piece of advice that you would want to share with young and emerging jewelry designers who want to make a mark in the industry?
I would say keep it original is the most important thing. And that is what we have forgotten completely. And when I say we, I say I get into it and I've realized it and I've come back from it. I've had design teams where we have given them projects and they have done their research and they have come back to me with images of their research and mood boards. And if you start seeing the research, you will see incredible amount of overlap. So someone who is doing a research on sea life is doing something to do with with Amazonite or seashells. Someone who's doing a research on old jewelry has Amazonite seashells in it. Someone who's doing research on Shiva and tantric, that, so what I'm trying to say is our research is going in the same space. We are doing it all on the internet. It's giving out the same results to bunch of people who are actually working on different projects, and the starting point is the same. We have to stop doing this online. We have to stop doing this on platforms. We have to start embracing nature. We have to start doing this outdoors. We have to start. That is the original way of doing research and of reading books, taking out from books. You know, I we did a collection called I Love Wildlife. We did a collection called Ranthambore. And my design team were like, sir, how do we do it? How do we go about it? In Ranthambore, it's only the tiger which we can think about. So I said, no, I sent all of them to Ranthambore for 2 nights. They came back and they were so happy because we were then the imagery, if you then you start seeing the imagery, you start creating that emotion in your mind, that what you had seen, what are the images, and then you start recreating it. We made chhatris of the Ranthambore palace, and we had the tiger sitting in it. We had multiple such things which would have not come in if you would have not gone there, felt it, emotion, and seen it, versus just finding on WGSN, finding on Pinterest, finding it on Instagram, and the same thing is being churned out. So I think that is something which is very important. Please start giving it actual thought. Start giving it the base how you are taught in. When I was doing jewelry designing with GIA, I still remember, and how we were told to think about and design and create a mood board, versus what we are doing today is completely wrong, I feel. So I think that is something which is the base for everything.
Thank you, Tarang. I just while you were speaking, I happened to Google Ranthambore, and the only images that cropped up were tigers.
It's tigers.
So I completely get what you are saying,
No
and
architecture. There's such a big architecture part of it. There is a Ranthambore castle and a mandir there, which is extremely important. Which is where people go to the Ranthambore temple and to the fort. There's no detail about that. There is, of course, there are tigers which are the central focal point. Within the tigers, there's Jagga Baudi, Jhumar Baudi. There's multiple locations there which has a very different flora and fauna. So there are so many different things which, if researched properly, other than just imagery, then you can feel it and you can see it. So that is what I think needs to be done always. I think make some points that these are the emotional, visual, sounds, all these things have to be seen, felt, and then a collection or the next piece should be made. And that will create that perfect emotion in creating the right piece.
absolutely. I read it somewhere, Tarang. I don't know. I'm not a creative designer as you are, but I read it somewhere that maybe a designer whose senses are evoked by nature and the surroundings would probably end up creating a design that would evoke the senses of the customer or the wearer. So
In our museum, if you come, whenever you will come, I'll show this to you personally and remember this. And I'll also remember it. We have a earring which is from Jaisalmer, and it's got 3 balls on it. And both the earrings, it's men's earrings, and it's got balls with spikes on it. It's actually cactus. Because in that part of the world, the only flora and fauna which they were actually regularly seeing is cactus. So their imagination and their design language was always around that cactus, whichever forms which they were seeing. It is the most simplest and the most beautiful thing. At least they were stuck to what they were seeing, and it was their interpretation of cactus. That is the most important part. Is what is your interpretation of the same product could be very different to my interpretation. I think the interpretation and how our craftsmen will take it down and how they will actually get involved, because what I am designing is not exactly how it's going to turn out. It's my designing with my craftsman, how he will interpret it and how he will give it life. That is also another whole strategy. But what I'm saying is that needs to be worked on more than anything else.
the old school research maybe.
100%.
Right. Uh, just couple of questions more, Tarang. I firstly want to understand, and thank you for giving me that segue also, because you mentioned how when you were studying at GIA in London and doing jewelry design, how this mood board and all of that. I want to understand, how were you as a student? I know you were anyway juggling between GIA campus in London and between the office over there. But how were you as a student doing all these courses at GIA? That is something that I want to really understand. Were you very studious, or were you uh,
The
just
first three tests, the Friday tests, which happened. I don't know if they still have the Friday tests, which happened.
yes, we do.
We had the first Friday test, and I still remember I got a 68 in the first one, then I got a 72, and I got a 70. So I was called to the principal's office, the dean's office, and he said, "Listen, you need to at least get a 75 to be in this class. And if you're not getting a 75, we can actually ask you to leave." And I had no clue about this. I was a kid from Jaipur, landed up in London, and I was learning how to work. And there's so much happening. And of course, you're just living your life when you are at that age, right? So I still remember that first month. That was my first three tests. The third, and yeah, I mean that was it basically. After that, I never got under 75. But I studied for those two Saturday Sundays, which came after that, and yeah, I improved a lot, I believe. No, so but I think the bestest of friends, the corest of friends I have made is during my stay in GIA London. I was in 2002 batch, right? So that was the first batch. That was the first batch of gemology and the second batch of diamond grading, I think, or the second batch of gemology and first of diamond grading. I still don't remember, but we were one of the first batch. I was definitely a first batch of designing, first batch of CAD, first batch of CAM of London, and I was one of these. So I still remember it was on Tottenham Court Road. I used to walk there every morning, and it really shaped my life. And I really do have my closest friends. I have someone who has actually worked with me for the last 12 years in my business is someone who I met through GIA London. So yeah, we were students together. Yeah, yeah. I'm in touch with pretty much all my closest friends from GIA. Someone from Delhi, someone from Canada, someone from Greece, someone from London, someone from Hong Kong. And I think it was a great platform. And the best part was that in our class, I still remember I was the youngest one, and the oldest lady was from Taiwan. She was a sales head at Bulgari. Her most important client was Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. And that's what she told me. She's like, I have this Indian gentleman, very well spoken. He seems to be a someone very big celebrity. I'm like, what's his name? He said, Amitabh Bachchan. I said, are you crazy? I said, your client is Amitabh Bachchan. He's like, yeah, he's a very, and you know how Taiwanese are very soft spoken as well. And she was very soft spoken. But yeah, I just remember that. So a big, all different age groups, various corners of the world, and various lives, and we all studied GIA together.
Fabulous. I think so. Couple of things. Friday tests, yes, still continue. 75% minimum, still required. So, yes, many people who are listening into you today absolutely will be like, yeah, this is exactly what happens to us. And many students still continue to dread that, but they of course love the journey and love the connections that they make.
Diamond down, or diamond drop or something. I still remember we used to
Now,
Stone
stone
down.
down,
Stone
stone
down.
down.
go down. So we had to make sure, and especially if it was a diamond, and everyone would just we had to just wait. And we'll be like, hey, ab aadha ghanta gaya, 20 minutes are gone. Doing it. But yeah.
Okay. So speaking of diamond and gemstones, Tarang, if I had to put a gun to your head and ask you one stone that's your favorite.
Emerald. Any day. Just seen too many of them. We are from Jaipur, have always seen. I actually always wear an emerald. I was thinking about it today. My emerald, it was coming off today morning, and I saw it, and I was like, what are the odds that I am going to be on a GIA talk today, and I'm not wearing my emerald pendant, but I've given it to my workshop today to get it mended. But I always wear an emerald. My kids wear emeralds. I love emeralds. I love it because the inclusions are just so mesmerizing in it. Every stone is different. Every color is different. Every area is different. I still remember the day when I could not differentiate between a Panchir or a Zambian or a Colombian or whatever. And in GIA, we are taught we should not be doing that by eye. You have to always send it to a lab. I know that, but but now I just feel so seeing so many in Jaipur. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I have any around me. But yeah, I mean, I always see. I'm talking to you, and I have emeralds.
Beautiful.
I'm not kidding. Emeralds is something which we work with a lot, and I love them.
Great that you're surrounded
And
with.
second best, you've asked me for the first. The second best is Spinels because again, it has the same kind of characteristics which I feel the inclusions are very interesting. It's not very typical. The crystal formations in it is outstanding. We used to get very confused with the bubbles in it versus crystals. And that was always the testing point if it's a real stone or if it's not a real stone, because spinel will have crystals in it and bubbles will be in a not a real stone and in a synthetic stimulants in stones. Yeah, so I think spinel is something which is beautiful. The variety of colors you can get it in, and just the depth and just the beauty. I think I love spinels.
And that's also where the story for Amrapali started, maybe. So your father and his friend looking for spinels. What are these stones and
Garnets.
garnets? Oh, sorry,
That was something. Similar color.
my bad, my bad. Yeah.
So garnets, of course, emeralds are very important in Jaipur. We are the biggest, largest cutting center. But the second stone in semi-precious for us has always been garnets back in the day, especially. So garnet beads, garnet drilled garnets was something which was very big out of Jaipur.
Thank you so much, Tarang. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you and learning all these amazing milestones and achievements. And of course, your journey, your brand's journey through these years.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and I'm so happy to be part of this session. I'm not just saying this because I'm ending the session. I have to say it, but I'm saying this because honestly, because of my learning of what I have today, the base is all from GIA, what I studied, right? So for me, that was my book. So even the books and the Bibles which we were talking about before was something which I learned and I did after. I mean, you got into the real world, but before that, it was all the knowledge which I got was from my time in GIA London. So it's quite I'm quite proud to be part of the GIA world, and I think you guys have done a fabulous job across the world, and I see a lot of other people doing something similar as well, and I have seen the similarities also, and I've seen the similarities where it comes from, and that's what I'm trying to say that I really appreciate and I really love my time with back in London with GIA. So no, thank you for it was really nothing, and it was really a pleasure to be